The second part that came about with Story. Um, I have never been to a writers conference. The average ongoing price is around $2,000 for a ticket. I have seen some as low as $500. And that will get you a very basic entrance fee. And then you keep tacking on ticket prices for all the separate events. You can have dinner or lunch with one of the authors or a group of authors. That's about a $500 ticket. And the more tickets you purchase, the more access you have. So you can easily rack up $4,000 for a writers conference. That's not including hotel charges and flight costs if you're coming in from a different state or are too far to drive, or even if you are driving, you're looking at gas expense. Without ever being to a conference, I was reading on Brandon Sanderson's site, it's a wonderful site. There's just so much I can say about Brandon Sanderson's site. This author does everything right on his website, and whoever designs it, it's outstanding. Under his writing tips, he talks about at the writing conference he went to. He spent the 2000, he went to a writers conference. And overall, he says there's only one thing he walked away with, and that was a lecture that one of the speakers gave. The lecture was very simple. This: imagine the one thing your character would never do. Now think about how awesome your story would be if your character did that one thing. It absolutely exploded the concept. It was just amazing. And Brandon Sanderson explains how he went home and literally rewrote his books. This was prior to his publications, to his first publication. So fortunately, he didn't have to go back and rewrite books that were already out there. But it really, really struck a chord. And what amazes me the most is very shortly thereafter, about 6 months later, I spoke to another author who also attended a different conference. And he also explained his experience with the conference. This author literally quoted Brandon Sanderson. He had nothing else to say regarding the writers' conference except this one quote. And walking away from that, I looked back and said, so people are spending $2,000 to get this one concept. It really does blow your mind away. Of course, there is networking involved, and the networking really is a step up. Networking does so much, which actually brings me to marketing, which is really what I want to talk about today. I have spoken to so many authors who hate marketing, who detest it, who loathe it. I don't. Actually, I love marketing probably more than I love writing, and I love writing. Don't get me wrong there. There is something about marketing and advertising that I can't put my finger on it. I absolutely took to it like a fish to water. I adored it. And I could literally consume every ounce of my time just in marketing. What I want to do today is explain to you the benefits of marketing, how it works, and how you as an author who detests marketing can actually use it to your benefit. Marketing excuse me. Marketing is really about how to sell yourself. The first thing that starts with marketing is branding. You want to brand yourself. The concept that authors have is they think they're selling their books. They think they're selling a book or a story, and that's all that the author pushes. This could not be more backwards of a way of thinking. As an author, you are not looking to sell a book. You are looking to sell you. Your personality. You are the merchandise, not your book. Your book is only a sub-series or a sub-genre. You don't want to sell the book. You want to sell you. You don't want to find, I'll use myself as an example. I don't want to find Doller and Shadow fans. I don't want to find Tales of the Drury fans. My target audience is Angela B. Chrysler fans. Those are the people that I want, because no matter what I put out, no matter what genre I write, no matter what word I put down on paper, I want those people who are going to come to my website and read every little thing that I write, because they absolutely adore what I've written, and it doesn't matter. One of my own authors who I absolutely adore is, I'll go by two of them, is Jules Verne. And the other one, who's still alive, is Karen Marie Moning. We'll talk first about Jules Verne. I adore French literature and I had no books growing up. All I had for reading material was the Bible and an encyclopedia set. So I devoured the encyclopedia set, and when I finally got my hands on a book, I was 12 years old, and it was Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Yes, that is a book. It was published in 1911. It's French literature, and there is something about those words. To this day, when I read Gaston Leroux, I melt into those words. I read that book literally 12 times. I took it out of the library over and over again for an entire 3 years and literally slept with that book underneath my pillow. When I finally got my hands on books, I actually held them like they were teddy bears. The second book that I found was Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, and then I read The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I also went on to Alexandre Dumas. So French literature very quickly became a very, very warm place in my heart. It's something that I still reference to this day. It wasn't until about 10 years later that I came upon Jules Verne, and the reason why I put him off is because everyone kept telling me that Jules Verne was a science fiction. That is the biggest misnomer I think I've ever heard. When I sat down and actually read Jules Verne, due to the amount of French literature I'd written or read, when I looked at Jules Verne, I didn't see science fiction. I saw pure, complete, and total French literature. So revisiting Jules Verne it was like bathing in warm, just warmth. It was just so comforting to me. What ended up happening once I discovered Jules Verne is it wasn't a story that I fell in love with. It was him. It was everything about him. I went out and literally purchased every one of his books. It didn't matter. It was him. And he gave me so much more than all the other French literature gave me, primarily because Victor Hugo, if you've ever looked at French literature, Victor Hugo writes a lot. The MO with French literature from the 19th century is that it is a bit wordy. The stories are phenomenal, but they are wordy. Jules Verne does not have that trait. So I took to him so warmly, and Around the World in 80 Days was a wonderful little 120-page piece. I fell into his books. They were just absolutely wonderful for me to revisit. It doesn't matter what that man wrote. I picked it up. I bought it. Absolutely embraced it. Karen Moring-Mani is the same thing. She's actually romance, and then she crossed into a fantasy genre, paranormal urban fantasy. And I absolutely fell into her characters. I am not a romance reader. There's very little about the genre that I do enjoy, but this particular author I just fell into. After 3 books of hers, it doesn't matter what this woman writes, I buy it. I have probably 2 to 3 copies of all of her books, paperback, market, and hardcover. I have all of her books on ebook now. It doesn't matter what this woman writes. I buy it. That's what you want to do with your books. You don't want to sell your book. You want to sell you. In order to sell you, you basically need a brand, which requires a logo and a motto. Now, when I first heard what a brand was, I really had no idea what it was. So I'm going to sit down and break down what a brand, a logo, and a motto is and what they do for you. Excuse me. The purpose of a brand is to replace a name and make it literally an object, a possession, a thing. You want people to hear your name and literally think of it as a household name, and that's really your goal. If I say Nike, one thing should come to mind in your head. If you see that symbol, that loop thing that Nike uses on all their shoes, one thing comes to your head. One thing always comes to my head. It's Michael Jordan, with the Michael Jordan commercials with the sneaker on his foot back in the 80s when they were running those commercials all the time. To this day, that image comes to my mind. If I say craft, you have something that you can relate it to. One word. If I say Madonna, this is a wonderful example. If I say Madonna, you have an image in your head, a memory. I say Beyonce, you guys have something in your head. Prince, the King. Any one of these things are quite literally people, actors, actresses, singers, who they immediately evoke an image, a brand, a style, a piece of merchandise that you can purchase. You have an association. That is your goal, and that is what a brand does. In order for an author to accomplish this, you need a logo and you need a motto. Logos require a designer. It requires money to get. I got mine for $30, literally $30 to purchase my logo from a very talented artist. Excuse me. The motto was 100% me just sitting down and writing, and my motto very quickly became, "Sink into my books with me. I will show you what I see." This is something that I wrote almost immediately in October 2014 when I launched my website and made the stage or presented myself on social media. Within a month, I had written this motto. I sat down during that time and spoke to a PR agent, public relations. She's literally a friend of my friend. And when I launched my career, my girlfriend hooked me up with a friend of hers. And the lady sat down with me for hours and literally gave me a crash course in marketing, which is where all of my knowledge comes from. And the knowledge she imparted with me really made an impact on how I drive my sales and how I network. It does everything. And this really is the advantage that I've been given above other authors, which I'm really wanting to pass on to you. And she said the first thing you need to do is establish a brand. Make yourself a brand. Turn it into a brand. To do this, you're going to need a motto. You're going to need a logo. The motto needs to be some sort of a catchphrase that absolutely summarizes up what you are and what you're selling. The other thing you're going to want to do is a logo. The power of the logo completely blew my mind away. I really struggled getting Google Plus followers. And the day I got my logo, I published it. I replaced the picture I had on Google Plus with my logo. I literally doubled my followers in a week. The minute that logo went up, it was substantial. Every one of my books, when you open up any one of my books, Stoller and Shadow, Broken, you see underneath, there is my motto. Sink into my books with me, I will show you what I see. I also caught on a couple other taglines as well. The other motto that I'm associated with is, "May the kindest of words always find you." And I sign it, "Warmest wishes." Again, this is my signature. It's my status. It's what people are starting to associate with me. One of the things that absolutely took me by surprise was my photograph. I was in need of a professional photo. I had no money, and I absolutely needed to have something professional. The only thing I had on access were my wedding pictures. I found one that only had me. I took my best picture, something that I could pass off as an author picture, and I put it out there. Didn't think anything about it. It was a professional photo. I looked great in the photo. I threw it on the internet. I'm wearing a white wedding gown that literally looks like a Cinderella dress and a circlet it looks like it was pulled out of Lord of the Rings. In fact, the lady who designed and built my circlet designed and recreated the circlet seen in Lord of the Rings. So it immediately evokes an image. And being a fantasy author, it just reinforced the fact that I looked like an elf who had stepped out of one of my books. The comments that I got back, all very positive, it's an ongoing gag, it's an ongoing reference. I am the author, the fairy princess author, or I am the fantasy elf author. I've been called all of these things. I have an article here that's coming up, an interview written by Stan Sudan, and part of the interview was some excerpts that he put in there of his own thoughts. And what he had to say about me was just absolutely warm. It really clarifies my point here, which is that brand, that what you're wanting to communicate to authors. I don't push and I don't look for Stoller and Shadow and Broken fans. This is the other problem that I have, and this is where branding really comes into play here. I am a multi-genre author. I have books that can relate to romance novels or to romance readers. I have books that go to psychologists and the fantasy reader. Because I'm spread thin, which is something they actually tell you do not do, is try and cater to large genres. I'm not trying to sell and cater to the large genres. I'm actually targeting Angela B. Chrysler fans who don't know they're Angela B. Chrysler fans. And it's just a matter of finding those particular readers and getting them drawn into my website. And that is where it brings me back to the most important marketing tool that you have at your disposal is your website. Your website must be treated not just as one of your books, but your best-selling, most phenomenal book available. Your website should be better than one of your books. And the reason why I say that is because your website is going to be your first impression to people. It's going to provide them with information in between your writing career. While you're putting out one book to the next, all the people are going to have to fall back on while they wait for your next book or your next release is going to be your website. And if your website is short on posts, short on activity, aesthetically unappealing, you're going to lose a lot of marketing power with that. When you do sell yourself, when you do push things through, you don't want to just say, buy my book. There is nothing that turns off a reader more than buy my book. It has got to be one of the worst things out there, and that's something else I do want to go through later on, is what authors do to actually hurt their career. With what is available now regarding websites is, this is a statistic that came in that I was just floored when I found it. You have 3 seconds to keep somebody on your website. 3 seconds. When somebody hits a link and that window opens up, the timer starts. 3 seconds. If your page does not load in 3 seconds, you've lost them. If your page does not captivate them in 3 seconds, you've lost them. If you have anything that goes wrong, if there's a glitch, if there's no website, any kind of complications, you have lost them. You have 3 seconds to lure them in. 3 seconds to keep them there. And the website goal is to literally keep people at your website. You do not want readers leaving your website. The longer they stay on your website, the more likely they are going to subscribe. And I cannot emphasize this enough. You want subscribers. You absolutely want subscribers. And the longer they stay on your website, the more likely they are to subscribe. The more likely they are to subscribe, the more likely they are to buy your book. So this is all about statistics and numbers. Absolutely. This is also regarding ratio. If 1 out, let's say 10%, is going to of visitors subscribe to your website. Of the 10%, only 1% is going to actually purchase your book. So let's see how well I do numbers, because my numbers here suck, so bear with me for a minute. If I have 10 people, 100 people come to my website, only 10 of those people are going to actually subscribe to my website. Now, of those 10 people, only 1 of them is going to actually purchase my book. Now, I don't want to focus on getting those 10 people to purchase it, because that 1% is going to remain. What I want to focus on is increasing the number of visits to my site. 200 people coming into my site will give me 20% or 20 followers. I'm sorry, it's still going to be 10%, 20 followers or 20 subscribers. And of those 20, 2 of them are going to now purchase my book. So I want to focus on getting the number of people to my website to increase. That is my goal. Not selling my book. The book will sell itself. I cannot emphasize that enough. You focus on selling you, and your book will sell itself. Do not push buy my book. Everyone is saying that, and readers are at a point now where they've turned it off. So what you really want to focus on is driving people to your website, giving people reasons to come to your website. How can I... The amount of emphasis, there's perks. One of the things that I offer on my website, I absolutely love this concept. Excuse me. One of the things that I recently came up with was, and unfortunately this idea hit after Dull & Shadow published, was a special features. Basically, if you read Broken, at the very end of Broken, there is a congratulations, you have finished Broken and unlocked the Looking Glass. To view special features reserved just for you, go to, I provide the link, and enter the password, and I provide the password at the end of the book. This unlocks commentaries by the author, where I go through and insert comments about what it was like in the writing experience while I was putting certain sections down on paper. I have audiobook readings where you can now listen to me reading sections of it. There are certain articles that I've written that are filled with spoilers just for the people who have read Broken. There's the making of, there's concepts. For Broken, or not Broken, for my third release, which is a short story to you that appears in the anthology, Amor Vincent Omnia, The special features that I offer is a sneak preview to a continuation, along with a massive surprise that readers are not going to see coming. With Dolor & Shadow, I had to go back and insert all this information after Dolor & Shadow was published, so there are some editions out there that do not contain this password, unfortunately. But with this, there is a plethora of information along with how to unlock the features. And one of the features that I offer for Dolor & Shadow is sneak previews into Lore Lenolund's Lies. They have access to the first 3 chapters of Lore Lenolund's Lies. They have certain tidbits and facts. I also do giveaways. If you have a paperback of any of my books, it provides you with links and information to get a free bookmark to complement your paperback. So there's a lot of perks that come with the website, and that's really what drives readers to the website is, what are they getting that they can't get anywhere else? Another huge thing that you can offer is short stories or reading material that you can only get on the website. In my case, I have the Eladrin Stones. The Eladrin Stones are a whole nother, I'll explain what I did. I'm a huge nerd, D&D fan, all the way. I'm the Dungeon Master. That's the DM. We came up with this zany story regarding one game that I was playing with literally a bunch of attorneys, and we lived vicariously through this game to break every rule and law that we are sworn to uphold on the other side of reality, which is where we all live. Within this game, we exercised such ruthlessness, such debauchery, and it absolutely became crazy humor, to the point where the characters, the players, asked me if I would actually write it out in story form. That is what the Eladrin Stones is. I'll give you a short synopsis of it. Basically, these 4 miscreants come together in this massive moment of chaos, and they take it upon themselves to wreak vengeance, and in so doing, they find themselves trapped in a story that is far beyond anything that they expected. They realize that there is the Order, which is the great government seeking out power, and they are looking for this great weapon. In addition to this great weapon that they are seeking, they find out that one of their comrades is actually, well, I'm not going to spoil it, but they get their hands on this collection, and they realize in order to access the weapon, they have to collect the 12 Eladrin Stones. And the story unfolds with the characters on a hunt for these Eladrin Stones while all these other things with the Order is going down. There's a time limit. It's quite intense, and I transferred it over to my website. The book is free. It will never be published. I'm probably going to go back and clean it up, and when I first started publishing it, I made it very clear that I wasn't going to edit it, that I would do my best here and there, but overall I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. That has since changed. I'm actually wanting to go all out and professional with a story and clean it up quite a bit. So that'll probably be on my to-do list. But these are all features that I offer on my website. I found one website that actually lists all the things that you can do on your website to boost reasons for other authors or for readers to go there. Speaking of readers, authors, this is something else that I've noticed that really just grates on me. I was filling out an interview and submitting it over to some authors to fill out, and there was one day I was looking through it, and I noticed this is what grated on me, was the interview that I had composed was very much directed to authors. It wasn't asking questions that readers wanted to have answered. It was asking questions that authors wanted answers to. And I realized all we're doing, the circle that I had formed on social media, was attract a bunch of authors. And I couldn't figure out why until I looked at this interview. When you write, when you do an interview, whenever you fill one out, whenever you ask questions and promote your own, your target should never be another writer. Your target is the reader. Assume that the reader does not write. Assume that the reader has absolutely no interest in writing. All they want to do is read your book. That is your target. Whenever you design anything, that is who you should be selling to. Not yourself, not to readers. I've seen so many book covers, I've seen so much different things out there where they are targeting one of 2 of 3 people. Whenever you have an author, there's 3 people involved. There is the author themselves, the other authors that they're working with, co-workers, and the reader. In almost every case where I've seen sales not doing well, or I've heard from the author that their sales are just not doing great, what I've learned is that they have either catered to either themselves or they have catered to the other authors, whether it's designing the book cover, editing, selling, marketing, their approach, their interviews, their articles that they write. There are so many authors out there writing how to write articles. Like this very one that I'm recording here is directed towards writers and not authors. And honestly, this is just because there's a lot of really awesome stuff here that I've learned and that I really wanted to pass on to people. But when you make the majority of your website nothing but how to write, you're not going to attract readers, you're going to attract other authors. So what you end up doing is you have a circle, literally, of just authors buying stuff from other authors. We're all sitting there within our circle purchasing each other's books. And eventually you're going to run out of authors. You grow your network and you might make something really phenomenal so that if one of the other authors reads something, they will like it enough to pass it on to their reader friends. You hope they have reader friends because, again, everyone's just attracting more authors. So one of the things that authors really need to break now, myself included, is no longer catering to the other authors. We really need to sell to the readers. The readers are who our target should be, and the readers are who we need to draw in. I think that's pretty much all I have to say at this time. I will probably be doing a couple more of these as far as marketing goes. I really, one of the things that I did was I have two websites. I have Brain to Books and then I have my website, my author website. And the reason why I have two websites is because I wanted to separate my authors from my readers. My readers go to my author website, while my author fans go to the Brain to Books website, where I have how-to, beginner articles, events. And the whole purpose of that is because I didn't want to bog down my author website with material that would not interest my reader. So when my readers come to my website, they can very much just browse and look through articles that would appeal to the reader and their own interests and their own hobbies. And one of the things that I've been really focused on is I don't blog or post articles on any very particular topic. I'm all over the place. I do articles on nerd things. I do articles on Iron Man a lot. I do articles on anime. I post a lot of articles on psychology. Literally whatever my interests are is what I post. And again, this isn't to attract any one particular genre. It's because my goal is to attract fans of Angela B. Kreisler. I want it so that my readers, whatever I publish, they will buy. And I'm not catering to fans of a genre. I'm catering to fans of my style. And that is really what I want you to take away from this, is that I'm marketing my style. And in order to market my style, I need a massive advertising campaign out there to show people this is my style. And that is the purpose of the website. So I'm going to leave you on this. If you are interested in more information, I have a lot of information for authors and writers on brain2books.co. That's co, not com. And for readers, of course, I always have my author page, angelabkreisler.com. I think that's all for today, and I hopefully will be doing this again soon. Thank you for your time. Oh, and may the kindest of words always find you.